This story begins with my dad and I ready to embark on a journey from the steel city of Pittsburgh to the mile high city of Denver. It had been my father's dream to take me on a hunting and dirt biking trip out west. This was our chance to live life and see the country. Any other person would dread the 21-hour journey we had ahead of us, but for me it was as if I was going to the moon. We left at night, and I was so excited for everything I would see, but of course I fell asleep throughout the entire night. I awoke to the sun rising behind our vehicle. Just like you learn in school, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. In the distance I could see an oddly shaped, metallic-looking structure. As we got closer, it hit me instantly. This was the gateway to the west, the St. Louis Arch. I was in awe at the size of this behemoth of a structure. We were even able to take what looked like a pod off of a spaceship to the top of the arch. After a short break, it was time that we continued our journey west. So we hopped back in our van and proceeded onward. I never realized how boring some of the roads can be in the flat states. It felt as if the road would never end. You could see what seemed to be 100 miles ahead of you. We actually saw a tornado about 20 miles ahead of us. We watched as it whipped across the road and eventually disappeared. After what felt like an eternity, we finally made it to Colorado. We stopped and rode our bikes at two different destinations. The first was called Hartman's Rock, which was the equivalent of endless hills of rocks and desert plants. Both my father and I took every opportunity to take the coolest pictures we could set up. We rode our bikes at this location for the first part of the day. Then we loaded back up around lunch and headed to our next riding location, Gunnison Gorge. This had to have been the riding of our dreams. The endless paths that could be taken along the hair-thin trails gave you goosebumps as you rode. It was the adrenaline rush of near death at every turn, knowing if you were to crash, it would most likely be over. Only the most advanced riders would tackle some of the trails that were present. It made for an outstanding day of riding, which is impossible to forget. The day was coming to a close, and it was time to load our bikes back onto the trailer and head to the ranch that we would be hunting from. Driving through the mountain passes made you feel as if you were on some other planet. Every turn there was another sight that would have you in complete amazement. It was to our surprise how large our hunting camp was. As soon as we arrived, we were greeted instantly and shown around the ranch. The inside of the place looked like a hunter's dream and an animal's nightmare, with trophy game mounted all around. They told us to get some rest because we had a big day of hunting tomorrow. As if our trip couldn't have gotten any better, it was time for us to hunt the Colorado native, the elk. We took off in the morning riding horses to our hunting location looking for the perfect bull, which is a male elk for the non-hunters. It was a competition between my father and I for who would get the largest elk. We played rock, paper, scissors for who would get the first shot, and I won, best 2 out of 3. Not long after, I could see the perfect elk through my scope, standing 300 yards away across the hillside, not even visible to the naked eye, a true beauty. He was mine, and I made sure of it without missing a single shot. My father couldn't have been any more proud as I hoisted its head for a picture. Later on that day, my father had his own shot at a massive bull, and to say the least, he didn't miss. When we got back to the camp after an outstanding day of hunting, we were all gathered around the fire in the main room of the ranch, talking about life. My father said, "You may never know when your time will come to an end on this earth, and as a father it is important that I show you as much as I can while I am still here. One day I hope that you too will share these lifelong memories that I have shared with you during this trip." While every day we go about our lives worrying about the simple things, we forget to live and experience. I made a promise to myself that I will make sure, no matter what, when I die, I will be able to say I lived my life to the fullest.